opposition.
So I have a question for the Prime Minister, because he's talking about vaccinations. We all support vaccines, and 90%, as he has said, 90% of Canadians have been vaccinated. Yep. Is he suggesting that unless 100% of Canadians are vaccinated, he's not even going to consider opening up and lifting restrictions? Yeah. Is that what he's trying to tell us? 90% is good for us, and I would say other countries in the world who have less vaccine uptake. Is he saying he's not going to do anything until 100% of Canadians are vaccinated? Really?
The right honourable.
We need more people to continue to step up, get vaccinated, get their kids vaccinated, get the booster shot. That's how we stay safe.
Across the country, provincial governments are listening, and they are presenting plans. So the Chief Public Health Officer of Canada, as well as provincial health officers, have all said it's time. 90% of Canadians are vaccinated, so I'm asking the Prime Minister when he will stop traumatizing Canadians and give us a plan to live our lives with COVID. What is the threshold? What day will he lift the restrictions?
The Honourable.
Vaccinations. When Canadians get vaccinated...
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have been misled. Our travel restrictions are not symmetrical with the United States. Our requirements for an arrival PCR test is the only one in the G7, and the minister knows that. PCR arrivals testing is wasteful, it's punitive, and it's ineffective. Canadians want to know, what day will this government drop these ineffective and costly travel restrictions?
I want to bring my colleague back to earth. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Speaker, our government will do what is needed to protect our health.
Thanks. Speaker, traffic over the Blue Water Bridge, which is a direct link to my riding of Lambton Kent Middlesex, is backed up because this Liberal government won't lift the mandates. Our Prime Minister's divisive words only add fuel to the fire and encourage the blockades. There's tractors parked out on the 401 right now. The Prime Minister is doing nothing to stop the division he's created and give hope to our nation that is beautiful but weary. Mr. Speaker, what is the Prime Minister doing today to end the mandates and restore Canada's supply chains?
The Honourable Minister.
These Conservatives, for 2 weeks, have been providing excuses for lawbreakers, have been providing justification for saying people are above the law. You know, they may have changed their leader, but they continue to flip-flop, Mr. Speaker. This Conservative Party must condemn blockades and call on all of them to go home so we can restore order in our supply chain.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear an answer from the Prime Minister. Canada has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. Over 90% are vaccinated, as the Prime Minister has said himself. Does the Prime Minister expect 100% of Canadians to be vaccinated, to start to think about presenting a reopening plan for our economy and for ending extreme measures? The question is clear. Is that the Prime Minister's objective, to wait for 100% of Canadians to be vaccinated to start giving people hope again? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Conservative Party of Canada has spent the past 2 weeks approving and encouraging these protests across Canada. The Conservatives were their biggest spokespeople. They even helped to fundraise for these blockades.
Over the span of just a few years, Trudeau has turned a nation long famous for Molson and sled dogs and niceness into a relentlessly punitive surveillance state. People have long whispered, in dead seriousness, that Justin Trudeau is the biological son of Fidel Castro. You could laugh it off, but now it's becoming pretty easy to believe. Trudeau has used systematically COVID to short-circuit democracy in Canada and to end organized Christianity there. Canadians can no longer travel freely within their own country. They can no longer return to their own country at certain parts. Pastors have been imprisoned for holding church services. The unvaccinated can be sent to jail for buying certain products in stores. In the town of Gatineau, family members were arrested for celebrating New Year's Eve in their own home. Every large institution in Canada pretends like all of this is perfectly normal. It's always been this way. Canadian media, which are largely controlled by the government, support these policies and Trudeau uncritically. In Nova Scotia, protests against Justin Trudeau's vaccine mandates are now banned by law. Rarely has a nation changed this quickly or more unequivocally for the worse. And last week, thousands of Canadian truckers reached their limit. A convoy of truckers converged on the capital city, Ottawa, to demand, peacefully, cheerfully, but persistently, an end to Justin Trudeau's tyranny. Justin Trudeau's response to this display of democracy, he fled the city. Trudeau evacuated his official residence and hid in an undisclosed location. He is still cowering there tonight. Will he come back? Has he abdicated? Will Canada be ruled by a junta of truckers? Well, not at this point. He emerged by video conference from his lair to declare that Canadian citizens who disagree with him are in fact attacking democracy. Watch.
There is a right to protest. There is a right to make your voices heard loudly and clearly. There is not a right to shut down our democracy or our democratic processes. There is not a right to abuse, intimidate, and harass your fellow citizens.
So expressing your views is an attack on democracy. And by the way, how dare you express your views as if you were free people? That's tyranny. Democracy is when you obey like serfs. Trudeau just effectively said that. And then because he has no self-awareness whatsoever, Trudeau announced that he's contracted COVID, which is perfect. In other words, take this shot or else, as you can see from the fact I am now sick, it works perfectly. If Canada weren't a country, it would be a remarkable dark comedy. So you may be wondering about these hordes of Visigoths who's descended on Ottawa, the ones who drove Justin Trudeau out of the city. What do they look like? Well, here they are.
I love you too.
Freedom, love, patriotic displays, waving Canadian flags, terrifying.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians